fairly mild night to come. So across Scotland then, quite a cloudy start to Sunday, some spells of rain and drizzle. It's only really across the very far north of Scotland, Shetland and Orkney that could see some clearer skies to start. Elsewhere across Northern Ireland, quite a showery start and some heavy downpours across northern parts of England. But elsewhere across central, southern parts of England, parts of Wales, mostly dry, though there's going to be plenty of cloud around. So quite a murky start for the second half of the weekend. Now, some spells of rain for the start of the day, but this will gradually ease as this system pushes into the North Sea. It'll brighten up for some, particularly across the south, though we're expecting some showers through the afternoon. And elsewhere, a little dry, but it is going to be a cloudy day, and at times this cloud will be thick enough to produce some light outbreaks of rain. And for all, it is going to feel much cooler, but still fairly warm across the south, highs reaching around 19 degrees here. And then through the course of the evening, it remains fairly unsettled with some cloud, also some showers, these turning a little heavy at times. And this leads us into another unsettled day for the bank holiday, cloudy with some rain and showers at times, and gradually into next week, turning a lot cooler. Bye-bye.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
There's a totally tax-free £76,543.21 in cash to be won. Cash to spend on anything you like. That's like having over £6,000 extra to spend each month for a whole year. You could spend it on a bucket list holiday, treats for all of the family, or just save it for a rainy day. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Bold.
They are under no illusion.
Ray.
Are you a human trafficker?
Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it.
Don't get us on the BBC.
Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines.
The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it?
From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos.
What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak.
Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Buckle up, Britain. It's going to be quite a ride. Votes are being cast and counts are gearing up in elections across the country. Everything could change. From the first result to the inevitable aftermath. We'll be across it all. Vote 2026, the people decide. From 11 p.m. Thursday night, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Does Chopper need a coffee?
All too often, people will be sitting at home watching a press conference live, and they'll hear loads of questions being asked, and they'll be thinking, that's not my question, that's not my concern.
We don't care whose feathers we ruffle. We ask the questions that you want answering.
You're all standing on the street protesting and want to have an open discussion.
My name's Patrick Christie's. I do a show for GB News in the UK. Is it possible to talk to you quickly?
Journalism in this country has been a cosy world full of groupthink until now. Well, this is the best view ever of Whitehall, looking out across all the tractor drivers of England who've come together to make their point.
Hello, so as you can see, I'm here in Westminster as the protest begins.
Yes, I'm very much in the thick of it.
Look, we're challenging narratives here at GB News, and that's what sets us apart.
Good evening and welcome to the biggest show on Saturday night, UK TV. It's the Saturday 5, live from the GB News studios in London, England. I'm Will Kingston, along with Dr. Renee Honderkamp, Christo Fufas, Connie Shaw, and making his debut, Sebastian Salick. Tonight on the show, Keir Starmer is a dead man walking, but what's coming next is even worse.
Antisemitism is a cancer in Britain that no one is prepared to treat.
The Renters' Rights Bill is the most moronic, economically illiterate piece of legislation in history.
Just when we thought things were back on track, this week has been a massive blow for free speech on university campuses.
Nigel Farage, a hypocrite? Surely not.
And you are endearing yourself to the audience already, Seb. It is 6 p.m. and this is the Saturday 5. Welcome to the Saturday 5, ladies and gentlemen. And as I was looking at the screen, I noticed, I think it's a very sartorially elegant Saturday 5 this evening. Christo, Connie, welcome. Did you do any coordination with that delightful little light blue ensemble?
No. I don't think we did. We just both have very good taste.
Will, you wouldn't understand. It's called fashion.
I certainly would not.
Seb and I are on it, aren't we?
A regular criticism of me on the show. Well, Seb, one of my rules of GB News is that the lefties are invariably poorly dressed, but you seem to break that rule. You're looking very smart.
I'm a good old-fashioned Blairite, Will. Dressed brilliantly.
Very good. Well, we are looking forward to your contributions this evening, and we're looking forward to your contributions at home. We want to know your views. Send them through to gbnews.com/your say, and don't forget to get your questions in for Ask the Five. No topics are off limits, and of course the main event coming to you at the top of the second hour, the Saturday Scrap. We want you to vote for what we should be discussing. Your options are: number 1, should we scrap the triple lock? Number 2, should sport stay completely separate from politics? And number 3, should we ban the hate marches? But before we start tearing each other apart for another week, it's the Saturday Night News with Aaron Armstrong.
Very good evening to you. The top stories from the GB newsroom at 2 minutes past 6. The Prime Minister says he wants tougher policing on the language used during protests and has suggested he could have some marches banned. Sir Keir Starmer's defended the right to peaceful protest, but expressed concern that repeated marches and phrases like globalise the intifada are having a cumulative effect on the Jewish community. His latest intervention comes amid repeated warnings from authorities of a deeply troubling rise in anti-Semitic incidents across the country and in the wake of a double stabbing in Golders Green on Wednesday. Well, the Prime Minister stopped short of agreeing with calls for a total ban on the marches, but Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch is in favour of such a move.
They were given the benefit of the doubt, but it is quite clear that they are used as a cover for promoting violence and intimidation against Jews. Anyone saying globalise the intifada or chanting from the river to the sea knows exactly what they're doing. They are trying to let people know that there is support for harming Jews. We need to make sure that that is stopped completely. Otherwise, we're going to continue seeing horrific events like we saw in Golders Green this week or like we saw in Manchester in Heaton Park Synagogue last year.
It's understood the Health Secretary Wes Streeting has enough support to launch a leadership challenge to Sir Keir Starmer within days. Reports suggest he's recruited more than 81 Labour MPs. That's the minimum number required to trigger a challenge, with some urging him to move as soon as Friday. Now, the Telegraph says the Prime Minister was alerted to the Health Secretary's intentions after a staff member accidentally texted details of his plans. Mr Streeting could either announce a formal leadership bid or he could resign from the Cabinet, hoping others would follow suit. 4 people have been taken to hospital with gunshot wounds after multiple shots were fired from a vehicle in South London. It happened on Cold Harbour Lane in Brixton early this morning. Police say a 25-year-old man's in a life-threatening condition, while 3 others sustained lesser injuries. No arrests have been made and officers are continuing to investigate. The 4-time Paralympic gold medalist and former Formula One driver Alex Zanardi has died at the age of 79. The Italian competed in F1 for 5 seasons before a major crash in 2001 resulted in both of his legs being amputated. He went on to win 4 gold medals and 2 silvers at the 2012 and 2016 Paralympics, and he also competed in the New York City Marathon and set an Ironman record. The Prince and Princess of Wales have released a new portrait and a video of Princess Charlotte to mark her 11th birthday. It was taken over Easter during a family holiday in Cornwall and shows Charlotte smiling and walking through a field of daisies. In a second post today, the Wales has released this video of Charlotte and thanked the public for all the lovely messages they received. It was filmed on the same holiday and shows the princess cuddling dogs, sailing, writing messages in the sand and playing cricket. Finally, the King has left Bermuda after a 3-day solo state visit to the British Overseas Territory. He was met at the international airport in St George's by an official delegation before boarding his plane back to the UK, and that followed an appearance to officially launch the UK's space agency's Project Nova, which is aimed to help track space debris. And you're up to date with the headlines. Now it is back to the Saturday 5.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB digital radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you, Aaron. It's Saturday night and you are with the Saturday 5, ladies and gentlemen. I can say that Sebastian has already endeared himself to you with the grand total of 1 sentence. We're already hearing Sebastian is an arrogant lefty and oh no, not Sebastian again, despite the fact he's never been on the show. Sebastian, do you want to write a reply?
No, I'll let them all come in and I'll deal with them at once.
Very good.
I'm going to stop writing them, I promise. I will stop. I just can't help it.
It's Kai.
Conspiracy.
Well, over the next 3 hours, ladies and gentlemen, it is the biggest debates, the hottest topics and the most entertaining interviews. Let's not waste a moment. I will start with tonight's first debate, and it is that dead man walking, the Prime Minister of this country, Sir Keir Starmer. He is a dead man walking, but he's walking incredibly slowly, and it has now become apparent that there are manoeuvres afoot. Wes Streeting is about as subtle as a bull in a china factory. It has become clear that he now has 81 MPs who would support his potential challenge for the leadership. We've also heard in recent weeks that Ed Miliband and Angela Rayner are considering their positions very carefully. And I would imagine, although I can't confirm this, that if there was some sort of a potential leadership showdown, both of those names would be in the mix. And this is the critical point. I imagine, if you're watching at home, you are not a fan of Keir Starmer. I'm certainly not a fan of Keir Starmer. I don't think he deserves to continue as Prime Minister. At the same time, what is coming next would be even worse, because what is coming next won't be Wes Streeting. He will not have the support of the Labor base. He's too far to the right, which really does say something. It won't be someone like Mahmood. Again, too far to the right. It will be someone like an Angela Rayner or someone like an Ed Miliband. As the Labor Party tries to move further to the left to compete with the Greens just when the country needs conservative solutions to the problems that it is facing, we will see more tax and spend, we will see less action on borders, we will see more pushes for diversity and multiculturalism, and if you dare to challenge that dogma, you will be silenced in a way that only authoritarian Labor regimes can. No one really likes Keir Starmer in this country, but we may well be ruining losing him if you have a Prime Minister Rayner or coming in the months ahead. Seb, I'll start with you. Do you think Starmer is effectively done?
I don't know. Let's see what happens on Thursday. But this is a man who's been very clear about going nowhere. And yes, Theresa May made those kinds of noises.
In so many ways.
Eventually. Well, oi! I'm trying to make a serious point here, Renee. No, I'm joking. Look, he's been very clear about the fact that he's not going to stand aside. And why should he? Because we've seen, and we're going to talk about this later as well, because it's so important, Prime Minister after Prime Minister after Prime Minister come in, have a go and walk out the door within 2 or 3 years. It's done nothing for the country. So even if you don't agree with Keir Starmer, what I would say is get behind somebody and let them see out their agenda.
Renee, on principle, I agree that a rotating door for leaders is not a good thing. But at the same time, this is a uniquely incompetent political figure in my mind who has demonstrated, I think, actually a lack of integrity, but also an inability to be able to do the job. Surely that means that he has to go.
I think what's really interesting about him is I don't think he has a political bone in his body. So he's unable to react quickly to situations in politics that need someone to be light of foot, to change direction, to decide what to do. He always has to take it to committee or meet people or think about it. And people see a boring man when they see that. I think what's really interesting is Farage has come out this afternoon and said that the fastest way to a general election is going to be Angela Rayner as PM. And
because she would tank the economy, is his argument.
I agree with him.
Christo?
I'm so depressed. I'm so depressed because this is just, it's actually quite depressing. It's quite depressing because of the mediocrity of the figures actually involved. I don't know whether I'm being radicalised in some way, but listening to what you were saying there, Will, and it won't be the first time you've radicalised me, frankly, but
doing my job.
Starting to think, actually, maybe we should just stick with Starmer because at least we know what we've got. At least, fine, it's no ideology, it's no backbone, it's no political actual, agenda, but at least it can't get much worse under him. Whereas the problem is that we will end up, the mess we've got in is as a result of left-wing policies, and my fear is that the Labour Party is going to think that more socialism is the solution to these problems, when in actual fact it's going to make it worse. So maybe, dare I say it, we should just better the devil you know.
Well, Connie, the thing is that he's been unable to push through any sort of substantive reforms that his backbench disagrees with. And I think, again, to Renee's point, he doesn't have a political instinct, so he's found it very difficult to actually drive through change. Now, if the policy platform of the Labor Party is there, then that's probably a good thing because at least you're not going to get all of these kind of loony lefty policies. But if you had a Miliband, for example, who is actually more competent, I don't agree with him, he's more competent, you may actually see more radical policies coming through.
Well, the issue is, and like you were alluding to there, Will, Keir Starmer is the most unpopular Prime Minister in history, in our lifetimes. So even if there was a change of leader, I think that just in the last 2.5 years, the Labour Party have almost destroyed their own reputation in the way that the Tories have destroyed theirs as well from the last 14 years. So I would prefer for Starmer to stay, and I think that's the best option for Labour as well, because even if they had a more left-wing leader, those votes have already gone to the Greens. They've already gone. I don't see how they think that they're going to be able to claw some of that back. And also, by keeping Starmer, but it's so much harder to get a new leader in. By keeping Starmer, it's actually better for us if you want to get Labour out completely. If they do have a more left-wing leader, get more backbenchers on the side of the party again, it will be harder to get rid of the party.
And so this is I agree. This is the challenge that I see for Labor, to the extent that I actually don't think the Labor Party in this country will ever win another election, because Connie said that the left-wing side of the party is going to the Greens, the kind of working class, old school Labourites are going to Reform. They're wedged in the middle, and I don't think they have a clear understanding of what's our reason for being in 2026. What should their strategy be?
I think it's so bold to predict that any party will not win another election or will stop existing, and a lot of people have said about that about the Tories, and frankly I think they're wrong, because what we underestimate is the heritage, is the infrastructure, is the data, is the reams and armies of volunteers who do it for the love of it. It's really hard to build that, and once you have it, it keeps growing. And so I do think Labour has a future.
It doesn't, though. The Labour Party in terms of membership has been in decline recently and over the last 40, 50 years?
Sure, but what I can tell you, I mean, a lot of WhatsApp groups full of very committed people who are knocking on doors, who are leafleting, who are campaigning because they care about it. And look, you may disagree with them, but they are there and they're putting in the work, and they're not going to go away. They've not gone away now when Labour is having a difficult time.
I do wonder...
And that speaks to a certain degree of resilience.
I do wonder, under all of this, underpinning all of this, are democracies now ungovernable because of social media? So we're all humans, politics are all humans, humans make mistakes which would have just gone by in years gone by, but now they can be spread wide, amplified, and at the same time, an unpopular policy can be quickly destroyed online. I wonder if we're ungovernable.
A quick final word.
Well, actually, I joke about this with my partner who's Middle Eastern, but we talk about how at least in places where there is no democracy, I mean, it's obviously not ideal, but they build airports. They have 20-year plans for things. They actually get things done because they just decide to do it, and they don't keep U-turning. Okay, you know, quite bad for human rights, but quite good for actually getting things done. So, you know, it's a balance.
I'm glad that you did put that caveat in. We may actually make up an audience member, and then I will put Renee's question into that fake audience member later in our third hour, because I think that's a really interesting question around, are democracies now fundamentally ungovernable? A spokesman for Wes Streeting has said repeatedly that he supports the Prime Minister. He is completely focused on his job, in which he has cut waiting lists to their lowest level for 3 years and got ambulances arriving faster than for half a decade. Do you know how you can also move quickly at home in a wonderful, spectacular camper van? Wait, do we still have... Yes. It is the Great British...
No, we don't have the camper van.
We don't have the camper van, to be clear, but we do have a Great British giveaway with your chance to win a spectacular £76,543...
With which you can buy a camper van.
With which you can buy a camper van, possibly even two, and that's all in tax-free cash. Here's all the details you need to enter.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. Imagine all the things you could do with that cash. Give the garden a glow up, max out on a new motor, or just make sure the coming year is your year. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in tax-free cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pulled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
A brand new Great British giveaway. It just keeps getting better. Renee, what do you have coming up for us after the break?
Will, I feel I've spoken about this now so often over the last few years, about how we have to look at why we have this rampant racism in our country that nobody is prepared to tackle. Come to us after the break and I'll tell you what I think about it.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience, because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5 on the People's Channel, GB News. A bit of sympathy coming through for Seb, where one person has said, trying to defend the indefensible is not an easy task. And Seb, I think that's probably right. As Margaret Thatcher said, the facts of life are conservative. You start from behind the 8 ball.
Yeah, I mean, thanks, I guess.
It's the best you're going to get. Look at this.
I'm going to take it and run with it.
Peter Jeffries has said, on a more serious note, here on the Isle of Wight, I've had 3 Reform leaflet drops and the Reform prospective councillors on my doorstep. Nothing from Labor and the Green Party as well. So we are interesting to note that. Thank you, Peter. Time for our next debate, and it is Renee.
Thank you very much. So, I've spoken about this a lot, but anti-Semitism is a cancer in Britain that no one appears to be prepared to treat. 4 times in the last 2 years on this show, I have warned that anti-Semitism in this country was looking like pre-war Germany, that it isn't background noise, it's a national emergency. Look at what's happening. Attacks in Golders Green, killings in Manchester, incidents in Kenton, Finchley, Watford. Students are targeted, artists, academics. Every time I call it out, the vile, racist, anti-Semitic hate I get makes the point, sadly. Thank you for that, guys. As a country, what are we saying? This is normal now, to be tolerated? After all, Israel is bad, isn't it? Is this what we now call British values? Hyper alert to so-called microaggressions, but somehow numb when it comes to real violent hatred of Jews. Where is the outrage? Where's the same unified response that we've seen time again when another form of extremism rises? We call it out. There was worldwide outrage over George Floyd, Christchurch mosque shootings and more, all correctly so. But why the hesitation when it's Jews? Why the blind spots? Why is everybody apparently in denial over the massive, pervasive, growing threat of Islamism? Mark Rowley is right. We have a pandemic of Jew hate. The platitudes, I'm not anti-Jewish, I'm just anti-Zionist, these are excuses for racism, the only acceptable racism. If you're selective about which hatred counts, then you are the problem. And when the Islamists have finished with the Saturday people, trust me, they're coming for the Sunday people, and I am embarrassed to be British.
Powerful words, Renee. Connie, what do you make of it?
Well, like Renee said, what's happening at the moment is reminiscent of what happened in Nazi Germany. And as someone who studied history extensively at school on World War II, I'm ashamed of my generation, who also learned a lot about World War II when I was at school. And it's so obviously what's going on. And I feel similarly to you, Renee, that I'm ashamed because Jewish people that I speak to, nearly all of them have stories about their families talking about making Aliyah and leaving this country because they would feel safer in Israel, which is a country surrounded by enemies that wish to wipe it off the map. They would feel safer there than they do on the streets of London and in the country wider. But as you pointed to, Islamism, what I find so frustrating about this, and I'd urge everyone to go and watch Josh Howie's speech at Downing Street a couple of nights ago, where he was phenomenal calling this out. This is primarily, I would say, an Islamic issue that we need to call out. Anti-Semitism has always been in society, but it has skyrocketed, particularly after October 7th, but also because of the fact that we have had mass immigration from different cultures, particularly cultures where Jews are hated. And we know that 24% of British Muslims, only 24%, have a negative view of Hamas. We have, 1 in 4 British Muslims don't believe that Hamas committed rape and murder on October 7th. We do need to look at that polling, and I'm not sure what the solution is, because
I think
these are people who were born in this country.
I don't think it's just Muslims who don't believe that lots of that happened, and I do want to say that. All of the white, middle-aged people with their scarves on marching may also believe that, and that's the scary thing.
Seb, the point that Connie makes, I think, is a good one. We should point out, obviously, that not all Muslims have a hatred of Jews. In fact, the vast majority of them would not. But at the same time, what she has said, and a lot of the time in this debate, people just say, well, there are rogue extremists or there are Islamists and there are problems in every religion. The statistics that she pointed to suggest that there are more culturally pervasive anti-Semitism problems amongst the Islamic community than just the extreme fringe.
That may well be. I think trying to pin this on Muslims is unhelpful, because once you start pitting Islamophobia against anti-Semitism, you're going down a very dangerous and unhelpful path. And so I think they're both equally awful problems we have in our society.
But
I feel really...
They're not, statistically, they're not.
They're really not.
They're not. The rate at which Jews are the ones
Sure.
who are victims of hate crimes
Sure.
is absolutely massive.
If you're looking at
any other
numbers, I would agree with you. But what I'm saying is an Islamophobic attack is as bad as an anti-Semitic attack. And I am ashamed to live in a country where we tolerate either of them. What really, really hurts my heart is when British Jews leave or say that they don't feel safe in this country anymore, because I want to believe that this is a country where people can come to and feel safe from
But it's all
anti-Semitism.
very well
But
wanting to
increasingly,
believe
it's not
it,
the case.
Seb, but it's not the case.
No, that's it.
But
That's
how are
what
we
I
going
find
to
so painful.
What I worry about more is that we're never going to put this genie back in the bottle, are we, Christo?
Well, I think what is moronic about a lot of the hatred towards Jewish people is that I think most people around this table, I would say, all people, I would hope, actually believe in the right to free speech. And I think if you are annoyed about what Israel are doing, or you're annoyed about aspects of the Israeli state, you have the right, I think, to say that peacefully and in proportion. It's so moronic, and you were just really careful about it, actually, Will, that we're really, really careful. No, I'm saying this in a complimentary way, that we're really careful when it comes to certain ethnicities or identities by saying not all. Not all Muslims, of course, have a negative view of Jewish people. It's really important that we make those caveats. Whereas this view that you must be Jewish, so therefore you must agree with every single thing that the Israeli state is doing, and therefore that gives a right to then attack a Jewish person. It's so stupid and it's so hypocritical.
But shall I tell you what's weird about it as well? There are 2 million Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps in China, but we don't have attacks against Chinese people on our streets for the crimes of China.
I absolutely agree, and that's what is... It's not distinguishing, and those very same people, they do know that not all Jewish people have the same view, because they will point to the Jewish people on their marches, and they'll say, well, look, Jewish people are on our marches, so therefore it must be bad what Israel are doing. Well, hang on, if you can distinguish that a Jewish person has a different opinion, then therefore you must surely know that not all Jewish people agree, and even if they did agree, that's no right to attack them. So that's why I find it so, the whole thing so moronic, and I'm going to say the word again, depressing.
The thing that frustrates me most about, and particularly about the hypocrisy of the left on this, during the Me Too movement, liberal feminists got absolutely up in arms when men would say, but it's not all men, and women would say, we know it's not all men, but it nearly always is a man. And when we look at anti-Semitic attacks where Jews are killed, it is a fact that it nearly always is a radical Muslim. And that is the issue. And I know that you're not saying, I don't think you are saying, Sebastian, but the point that you made alludes to the idea that it's actually Islamophobic to call out the anti-Semitism within Muslim communities.
But we have structural institutional problems as well. So Jews are 6 times more likely to be attacked as a hate attack than Muslims.
Right.
But Muslims Muslim, perpetrators against Muslims are twice as likely to be prosecuted than persecutors against Jews.
Seb, I'll give you the final word.
Institutional problem as well.
Yeah, the final word is that I don't think you can quite make that comparison, because when we say not all men are, in a sense, the dominant gender. They're not. You can punch up, you can attack men. Muslims are also a minority, so you can't make that comparison because you are then going after another minority. By all means, flush out anti-Semitism wherever it exists, whoever does it, but let's not turn this against...
Sorry, I know it's the final word, but I just want to say it's not Islamophobic to call out radical Islam.
This is exactly what I'm saying. This is exactly what I'm saying.
Then why did you mention the word Islamophobia?
So my point is, let's flush out anti-Semitism wherever it is occurring.
But the point is that by doing that, we're turning our... This is like when we have a conversation about the grooming gangs. We say, well, we need to look at everywhere. Of course we do, but this is such a huge issue within Islam, not just Islam, but Islam, that we, in order to end the extremities of this, that is the first place we need to be doing.
We're probably agreeing. I'm saying flush it out where it exists, but let's not turn it into a witch hunt against Muslims. They've had enough of that.
I'm loath to end that debate just as it's getting spicy, but we have a show format to honour. Christo, what do you have coming up?
Well, do you know what? I think depression, I'm going to have to go and have a drink in a minute, because if you're not depressed about what you've just heard about what's going on in this country, well, the Renters' Rights Bill and quite how stupid that piece of legislation is will depress you next.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Across western parts of Europe and the southeast, some unsettled weather this weekend. In between for Italy, mostly fine with some sunshine, but an area of low pressure will bring strong winds through the Greek islands, heavy showers and some longer spells of wet weather for Turkey, as well as below average temperatures. And here is some more rain extending across much of France into Spain as well as Portugal. Some lively thunderstorms for France in particular, and that really continues through the start of next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A band of heavy thundery rain will push up from the south this evening, but gradually turning brighter tomorrow once any rain clears, though it is going to be feeling much cooler as we head into next week. Now, it's this system across the south this evening that we do need to keep an eye on, eventually pushing some heavy thundery bands of rain northwards across the country. This could lead to some difficult driving conditions, so do take care if you're out and about this evening. Eventually turning a little bit drier across parts of the south to the north of any rain, often quite cloudy with some showers at times. Now, temperatures will fall to around freezing across the very far north of Scotland, but actually for most with the cloud and also the rain, it's going to be a fairly mild night to come. Now, quite a soggy start to Sunday for many areas. Across Scotland, largely dry, though plenty of cloud around. This could be thick enough to produce some light outbreaks of drizzle, but it's really across southern Scotland, northern parts of England, Northern Ireland as well, where we could see some rain and also some showers. Once again, we could see some fairly heavy downpours at times. Elsewhere across England and Wales, mostly dry, though some showers just starting to clip the far southwest of England, and this is pretty much the story through most of the morning. Now, eventually rain will clear into the North Sea, so turning a little bit drier, but still plenty of cloud around, still some showers at times. The best of the brightness likely across the very far north of Scotland. And overall for all, it is going to be a slightly cooler day, though highs will still reach around 19 degrees across the south, though many northern areas between 10 to 13 degrees. So it is going to be feeling a little cooler compared to what we see this afternoon. But on Monday, still a cooler, fresher feel in the air, but actually there's going to be plenty of dry weather around. Still some showers across the south, eventually some showers moving into the far north of Scotland, though for many areas it should be dry, perhaps even some bright sunny spells later into the afternoon. Quite cloudy into next week, some showers at times, and temperatures overall feeling a lot cooler.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pearce.
And me, Miriam Gates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
Breaking news, live updates, stories that matter.
From the heart of the GB newsroom to every corner of Britain, with our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
GB News bulletins are there to deliver the latest news that matters to you.
Bulletins on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in,
the late edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, late edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, late edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB loyalty points are here. They're our way of saying thank you for spending time with GB News. Through commenting on your say, voting in You Decide polls and shaping the debate, you can earn GB loyalty points. Unlock rewards, reach milestones and climb leaderboards. Don't just watch our programmes, come and be part of them. Get started by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/loyalty points.
Welcome back to the Saturday Five. A friend of the show, Grumpy Grandad, has said Dr. Renee has been talking about this for months, she has, and she will still be talking about it in the future because our politicians are too scared to take on the problem they've created. And I think that's a very pertinent point. I was only hearing Shabana Mahmood talking about the response this morning, and she talked about education in schools. And friend of the show, Darren Grimes, tweeted back, how does teaching British kids to respect Jews stop Somali migrants from stabbing them? And I think it was a very poignant and powerful remark from Darren there around, are we actually addressing the root cause problems that are behind some of these anti-Semitic attacks? Thank you very much for your messages so far. Now it is time for our next debate. Christo.
Yes, I thought I would cheer you all up by talking about one of the most moronic pieces of legislation that I think has come out of this government. It is, of course, the Renters' Rights Bill, which became active yesterday. Now, it's claimed by this government that it's going to protect renters, and in a moment I'll take you through some of the prominent parts of the legislation and tell you why that's utter rubbish. But first, well, I wouldn't trust this man to solve a crossword, let alone the housing crisis, but this is what the Housing Secretary Steve Reed had to say about the legislation.
Well, for far too long, renters in this country have been living in insecurity, never knowing when they're going to be kicked out of their home, never knowing when they're going to get yet another unaffordable rent rise.
OK, so he alluded to there that this legislation stops the fact that landlords can put the rent up. Great on paper, but what does that mean? Well, landlords are just asking higher asking prices to start with. It's the same when you look at the fact that you can't take multiple months of rent in advance or go to sealed bids. Again, what does that mean? It means that landlords are covering themselves by either asking higher asking prices to start with or choosing blue chip tenants. So therefore going for the tenants with the best credit or with the best jobs rather than those who perhaps they would take a risk on. Myself personally, I did this. I was renting a flat once to a lovely couple. She was part-time work. He owned a small business. On paper, terrible credit. They paid me 3 months rent up front. It meant that the credit check was for a lower amount of money. They got the flat. I would never take a risk on people like that again. So how does that help renters? It also stops all of this idea of people who can't pay and those in arrears from being able to be evicted more easily. Again, you just choose tenants that's less likely to happen with and ask for more money to cover yourself. That's the reason all of this nonsense and all of this over-regulation that we've seen the highest rents in history. Currently, the ONS says that we've got the highest rents in history. We've seen 100,000 landlords leave the market and 200,000 rental properties gone from the market. It is simple supply and demand. The supply of rental properties is going down, demand is going up, prices are rising, and the very people that Labour claim that they are trying to help, renters, are going to end up paying more. It is moronic beyond belief.
Yeah, Seb, you can't cheat the laws of economics, and as much as Labor may want to try and distort the market, it is going to catch up with them eventually. Surely this will lead to higher rents.
This is a lot of doomerism. There was once somebody who said we mustn't have the weekend because workers will be less productive. There was once somebody who said we mustn't have a minimum wage because inflation will spiral out of control. Turns out we can have nice things. There are over 4 million households renting in this country. They are secure in their homes now. A few days ago, they weren't. These are people with children in local schools who before a couple of days ago could be booted out for any reason whatsoever. They are now more secure and they have rights that they've never had before.
Connie, you've got an incredulous look on your face.
Well, I for lots of young people that I've spoken to, this has been very popular amongst renters. But like you said, Christo, I think some of this will clearly backfire because if landlords do have property, they are going to be less likely. At the moment, if they have people moving out, they might be more likely to sell up.
They're very much more likely to sell up.
Because the risk of it is so high.
And 80% of landlords own under 4 properties. Over 50%, or around 50% actually, own 1 property. These are not multi-millionaires, but the amount of money, regulation and interference that they've had to put up with, licensing, which, by the way, our own government doesn't even do. Rachel Reeves, of course, the letting agent, took responsibility for her not having her licence. All of that puts costs on the landlord. The fact that they don't get a tax break either. Where does that cost go? It goes on to the rent. And that is why the ONS says today, and in the run-up to this legislation, we are seeing the highest rents in history. So, Sebastian, fine, for those people who are in their homes at the moment, perhaps it's better. When they come to need to rent somewhere else, or the landlord sells, how is the highest rents in history and more demand going to help those people?
I just want to bring in Renee before we go.
At the risk of being called a conspiracy theorist, because nobody's ever called me that before, I actually think they don't want small landlords in the market. Lloyds, 5 years ago, as a bank, said it was their aim to have 25% of the rental market. They would be the landlords.
Build to rent.
Yes, and to buy up properties or foreclose on properties. These big companies are going to be the landlords of the future. And if you think that's going to be any better for young people, it's a nonsense.
Or more tax efficient for younger people or for the economy, because of course many of these big corporations have the accountants and have the means for economies of scale for cheaper repairs, and of course they don't pay as much tax.
Well, the reality is that this will be judged on whether or not rental prices go up in 12 months over the next 12 months. I can't see it going any other direction, but fingers crossed that's not the case. Connie, what have you got for us?
Just when we thought things were getting back on track for free speech at universities, this week a ruling has been made that the fine that was given to Sussex University last year for their chilling of freedom of speech due to their trans policy has been overturned at the High Court. This is a very bleak situation for universities to be back into because after this ruling, it will be back to business as usual.
Yeah, I also saw in the papers, would have been a couple of weeks ago now, the talk around fines to universities for free speech breaches. Have the Labor Party finally come to their senses on free speech issues, Seb?
To be completely honest, I think we probably overcorrected on this during the COVID years. When you're looking at social progress, there is a tendency to go very quickly, find where the boundaries are and come back a little bit, and that's pretty much what's happened here. Now, look, I am a defender of free speech, which means hearing things that I don't want to hear. A lot of these people involved in cases like this are saying things I don't want to hear, but the point of university is to hear things you don't want to hear, to learn how to argue against them, to come on programmes like this and sharpen your views and then broadcast them to the world. But no, I think it's important progress, even if it makes people like me feel a bit uncomfortable.
But the problem is that that's not happening on university campuses, is it? We know that free speech is far from prevalent on university campuses. We see speakers be deplatformed all of the time. It's still going on. I read about a big one last week. Still going on. MPs can't even always go and talk if the student body doesn't want to hear it. Farage can't go anywhere and talk because
But none of that's free speech.
Shocked.
You've said it yourself. That's a platform. Having free speech is me being able to say something and not go to prison for it. Me going to stand on a stage and speak to an audience of people.
What's the difference between free speech and a platform? That's exactly the same thing.
They're two very different things.
They're not.
I have no right to be on this programme. I can be thrown away. An audience member sitting at home has no right to come and sit in my chair. But they have a right to say something and not go to prison for it.
If you're being denied your platform because people don't like what you're going to say, as as long as it doesn't go into the realms of being illegal, then in a university of all places, yes, you do have the right to that platform.
Sebastian, you sit there, and what freedom is someone being able to turn off their TV, which lots of them have said they're going to do because of you.
That's very true.
That's freedom of speech, that freedom of action because of someone's speech.
Okay, so you're now freedom of action, which is very different to... No, they're not the same thing.
But also...
You've given them two different names. Why have you done that?
But also, Connie, even if you're not willing to accept that argument of this is or is not freedom of speech, surely the spirit of universities is that they should be aiming to platform a variety of different views across the political spectrum.
Yes, and just to clarify, what has happened this week is that last year, and a free speech campaign has celebrated this, the University of Sussex, there was an investigation launched into them after the way that Kathleen Stock had to leave her job. And just to remind people how bad it was, for the crime of believing that women were female and that they deserved single-sex spaces, it was so unsafe, genuinely unsafe, for her to go on campus that the police told her to stay at home, to teach online, that she needed to install CCTV at her house to make sure that she had security when she did leave. That's how bad it was. And the university did nothing to support her, and she had no choice but to leave. And the Office for Students launched this investigation and found that their trans policy, which said that trans people had to be painted in a positive light, and there could be no transphobic propaganda, i.e. people just saying their gender-critical views, Kathleen Stock had to change the way that she taught her course. That is why the Office for Students fined the University of Sussex £500,000, £500,000, and it meant that then universities across the country had to revise their policies. My university, University of Leeds, had an almost identical policy to Sussex, and that is what I was almost expelled under, because they used that policy. And one of the rulings that the judge made in the High Court was one of the reasons why this was an unfair fine, is that she said that the trans policy that Sussex had did not count as a governing document. If it's not a governing document, then why do universities use it to almost expel students for expressing their gender-critical views?
At university, Seb, students should have put in front of them people of every different, idea, whether they like it or not, and they should learn to cope with things that they find very, very uncomfortable.
I agree with you.
So platforming people stops that.
Seb, given that we have agreement, what have you got coming up for us after
What have I got coming up? Well, Nigel Farage certainly knows how to stick the boot in, doesn't he? Well, he was very good at taking the mickey out of Keir Starmer over those glasses from Lord Ali. But what was he doing in the meantime? We'll talk about that.
I'm Michelle Dewberry, this is Jubes & Co with you.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie is here to GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection. Tune in to GB News, anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
I think if we try to mix what happens in their private lives and the art they produce, we won't have no artists left to listen to, no books left to read. Culture in itself will be dented. We always have to remind ourselves that these people are human. I'm not saying what they've done in their private lives are okay and should be forgotten about. But if we start undermining audiences and think, okay, we can't do any films about them, we can't do any books about them, there's nothing left for us to celebrate. It's always down to an audience member. If they don't like Michael Jackson, no one's forcing you to buy the ticket to go watch his film. There are millions of Michael Jackson fans out there, so why should they suffer just because of these allegations which he was proved not guilty for?
I mean, I know it's not meant to be a documentary. It is a sort of celebration of his very public life, of his stage life, as it were. But you're still not being told the whole story, so are you being hoodwinked?
No, actually, Anne. So what's actually happened, Lionsgate, who have produced the film, they're actually planning a follow-up to this film. So it actually ends when he releases Thriller. So there will be a follow-up to this movie.
So let's talk about the allegations now. When he was accused by Jordan Chandler in 1993 of child abuse, he signed a couple of NDAs, Michael Jackson. So the film did want to depict it, but they can't do it because of the NDAs that he signed at the time. And those NDAs actually stand after his death. So it's not that the family haven't wanted to highlight it. I do agree that obviously because the estate made this film can be one-sided, but that side of Michael Jackson's career they did want to include in the film.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Ladies and gentlemen, remember to keep getting your questions in for Ask the 5 at the top of the third hour. Before that, though, Seb, what have you got for us?
Thanks, Will. So, Nigel Farage certainly knows how to stick the boot into his opponents. Remember, at the very beginning of the Starmer premiership, he accepted a few freebies, and Big Nige was quick to criticise. But it recently emerged that a few weeks before, he had also accepted a small gift. Not a pair of specs, not Taylor Swift tickets, but £5 million in cold, hard cash. Reform say they were right to keep the donation a secret. They didn't have to do anything because Farage wasn't an MP at the time, but the Electoral Commission and parliamentary rules, rather, state that any benefits within 12 months before taking office have to be declared. Now, all parties accept donations. It's just a fact of political life. And you can make your own mind up about whether you think this is right or wrong, whether a crypto billionaire should be getting involved in politics. I mean, you look at what Reform is talking about, and they want to reduce taxes on crypto. So I'll leave you to collect the dots there. But the big problem here is the hypocrisy. You don't go criticising someone for accepting a few glasses and dresses and suits when you yourself are raking in the cash.
So, Chris, there's two things going on here, Renee. There's the accusation of hypocrisy, and then there's the wider conversation around donations coming to Reform from wealthy people, some of whom are overseas. On the hypocrisy point, where do you stand?
Well, look, he took this money not to buy suits or glasses or decorate a flat or, you know, put his son up in a fancy £4 million flat in Covent Garden.
Yeah.
He took it for security.
Yeah.
And he'd been told by the police that he needed security, and he clearly did. He's quite often been attacked and had things thrown at him. So he wasn't taking it for these fanciful things that you've painted it as, was he? He was
so what's
taking it for
interesting
his
to me,
own
if I can
security.
jump in there, is that you were asked about the hypocrisy point and you've glossed over that.
So, look, if he's broken the rules, he's broken the rules, and we shall see what the parliamentary committee says about that, because I think he has been referred.
But he criticised Starmer for taking money from donors.
Surely the point is that René is making is that you can't compare the two, because what Farage was using the money for was apparent security, whereas the things that Starmer was donated are just luxuries.
But donations are donations. It's the principle.
But Farage can't do his job as a party leader without security, whereas I'm sure...
But it's up to Farage what he spends the money on. That's irrelevant. The fact is he's taken that money whilst criticising someone else for taking gifts.
Christo?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just reading an article about how companies that donated to Labour were awarded contracts worth almost £138 million during their first year in government, and that's aside from, of course, all of those donations. Sorry, would you like the list?
In the interest of fairness, though, which does not come naturally to me, but
what have you done with the rule,
all political parties take bucket loads of money from a range of different sources. But to Seb's point, it would appear that there has been a technical breach of the rules here.
And look, if that is a breach of the rules, that is absolutely wrong. But I don't really get what the story is here. When Labour sold themselves as the bastions of virtue, they've taken millions and millions in donations, and then, of course, some of those donations, it is alleged, were then ended up being beneficial when it came to legislation for those people that created those donations. You had the free babies controversy, which was ridiculous, buying clothes, having people buy them clothes, for goodness sake. So what's your point here? That Reform might have taken some money and they didn't dot the I's and cross the T's? That's wrong if they did that.
Nigel
but I
Farage
don't
was
really
very
care.
happy to criticise Starmer for taking whatever he took when just a few weeks earlier he'd accepted £5 million. That's hypocritical, is it not?
For security.
That's hypocritical, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, if he didn't follow the rules by doing so...
It's not about following the rules, it's about the fact that he criticised someone else for
how can
taking
you
money.
compare the two? Surely there is a difference between using money for security so that he can do his job rather than someone being...
So I don't contest the fact that Farage needs security. That is plain for all to see.
Did he not then go on?
He criticised Starmer for this.
Did he not then go on to declare I think there was another 12 million that came from this guy into the party, as he always should have done?
It is very telling that none of you have engaged with this point.
No, I'm asking, but did the person that donated the money to Reform, did they get rewarded in any way?
So Christopher Harborne is a crypto billionaire. He holds his money in crypto, and what that means is that he has to pay a lot of tax if he wants to sell that. Now, Reform are pledging going into the next election to reduce the tax that he would have to pay. So he will make a lot of money. This is great value for money for him if Reform come into power.
So you are accusing Reform of potentially, if they got to power, doing something that the Labour Party have reportedly done already.
No,
that's
just
your
answering your question. My main problem here is that Farage criticised someone else for doing something that he himself has also done. That, to me, is hypocrisy.
I would add as well that pretty much every political party, Labor, the Conservatives, Greens, Lib Dems, they all take money from a range of different sources. It comes with the territory of politics, for better, of worse. Plenty more to come in the second hour, ladies and gentlemen, including our scrap. Should we ban hate marches? All to come on Saturday 5.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A band of heavy thundery rain will push up from the south this evening, but gradually turning brighter tomorrow once any rain clears, though it is going to be feeling much cooler as we head into next week. Now, it's this system across the south this evening that we do need to keep an eye on, eventually pushing some heavy thundery bands of rain northwards across the country. This could lead to some difficult driving conditions, so do take care if you're out and about this evening. Eventually turning a little bit drier across parts of the south to the north of any rain, often quite cloudy with some showers at times. Now, temperatures will fall to around freezing across the very far north of Scotland, but actually for most with the cloud and also the rain, it's going to be a fairly mild night to come. Now, quite a soggy start to Sunday for many areas. Across Scotland, largely dry, though plenty of cloud around. This could be thick enough to produce some light outbreaks of drizzle, but it's really across southern Scotland, northern parts of England, Northern Ireland as well, where we could see some rain and also some showers. Once again, we could see some fairly heavy downpours at times. Elsewhere across England and Wales, mostly dry, though some showers just starting to clip the far southwest of England. And this is pretty much the story through most of the morning. Now, eventually rain will clear into the North Sea, so turning a little bit drier, but still plenty of cloud around, still some showers at times. The best of the brightness likely across the very far north of Scotland. And overall for all, it is going to be a slightly cooler day, though highs will still reach around 19 degrees across the south, though many northern areas between 10 to 13 degrees. So it is going to be feeling a little cooler compared to what we see this afternoon. But on Monday, still a cooler, fresher feel in the air, but actually there's going to be plenty of dry weather around. Still some showers across the south, eventually some showers moving into the far north of Scotland, though for many areas it should be dry, perhaps even some bright sunny spells later into the afternoon. Quite cloudy into next week, some showers at times, and temperatures overall feeling a lot cooler.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Box Boiler sponsors the weather on GB News.
We're counting down to a spectacular summer. It's your chance to win £76,543 and 21 pence in totally tax-free cash. A lump sum that you could have in time to splash out with this summer. And because it's tax-free, you get to keep every single penny. For a chance to win, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. £5 Membership entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB21 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 26th of June. This is a network giveaway. Entries will be pooled. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. But no, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel. Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Buckle up, Britain. It's going to be quite a ride. Votes are being cast and counts are gearing up in elections across the country. Everything could change. From the first result to the inevitable aftermath. We'll be across it all. Vote 2026, the people decide. From 11 p.m. Thursday night, only on GB News, Britain's news channel. Does Chopper need a coffee?
Welcome back to the biggest show on Saturday night, UK TV. It's the Saturday 5, live from the GB News studios in London, England. I'm Will Kingston, along with Dr. Renee Honderkamp, Christo Fufas, Connie Shaw and Sebastian Salek. Tonight on the show, ding, 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 it's the Saturday scrap. Should we ban hate marches?
Keep sending in your questions for Ask the Five, and please put Ask the Five in front of them or I can't find them.
Now, Starmer is sparking a Lord's overhaul row as hereditary peers have been restored via life peerages in a controversial shake-up of the upper house.
Deputy Leader of the Greens, Rachel Millward, blames racial hatred on food prices.
And John Major says, stop treating politics like it's Tinder.
It's 7 p.m. and this is the Saturday 5. Thank you for sticking with us on the Saturday 5. Keep getting your comments in, gbnews.com/your say. If I was to draw out some themes, I would suggest that Seb perhaps isn't the most popular member of the panel this evening.
What are you on about?
And also, I think that they think this is a bit of a mountain out of a molehill when it comes to the Farage story. There's another point here that came through, which was politicians famously don't go into politics for the lavish remuneration. And one of my controversial opinions, I actually think you should pay politicians more money if it means that there is less fraud and you get better people in the job. That being said, before we start tearing each other apart for another hour, it's your Saturday Night News with Aaron Armstrong.
Thank you very much. Good evening to you. Let's get you up to date with the headlines. The Prime Minister says he wants tougher policing on the language used during protests and has suggested some marches could be banned. Sir Keir Starmer has defended the right to peaceful protest but expressed concern that repeated marches and phrases like globalise the intifada were having a cumulative effect on the Jewish community. His latest intervention comes amid repeated warnings from authorities of a deeply troubling rise in anti-Semitic incidents across the country in the wake of the double stabbing in Golders Green on Wednesday. The Prime Minister stopped short of agreeing with calls for a ban on the marches. Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch, though, is in favour of such a move.
They were given the benefit of the doubt, but it is quite clear that they are used as a cover for promoting violence and intimidation against Jews. Anyone saying globalise the Intifada or chanting from the river to the sea knows exactly what they're doing. They are trying to let people know that there is support for harming Jews. We need to make sure that that is stopped completely. Otherwise, we're going to continue seeing horrific events like we saw in Golders Green this week or like we saw in Manchester in Heaton Park Synagogue last year.
It's understood the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, has enough support to launch a leadership challenge to Sir Keir Starmer within days. Reports suggest he's recruited more than 81 Labour MPs, the minimum number needed to trigger a challenge. Some of them are urging him to move as soon as Friday. The Telegraph reports the Prime Minister was alerted to the Health Secretary's intentions after a staff member accidentally texted details of his plans. Details of Iran's latest proposal to end the war with the United States have emerged, a proposal that's already been rejected by President Trump. The US President told reporters at the White House yesterday he wasn't satisfied and suggested Iran was making unreasonable demands without elaborating. Well, Tehran has suggested postponing talks on its nuclear program to a later date in return for the US lifting of sanctions. And Iran wants Washington to recognise its right to enrich uranium for peaceful purposes. Iran's also asking for a guarantee that Israel and the US would not attack again and a lifting of the US blockade of the Strait of Hormuz. Four-time Paralympic gold medalist and former Formula One driver Alex Zanardi has died at the age of 59. The Italian competed in F1 for 5 seasons before a major crash in 2001 resulted in both of his legs being amputated. But he went on to win 4 gold medals and 2 silvers at the 2012 and 2016 Paralympics. Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni paid tribute, calling him a symbol of the strength to never give up. The King's left Bermuda after a solo state visit to the British Overseas Territory. A small group of dignitaries, including Bermuda's Premier David Burt, bid farewell to the King as he concluded his 3-day trip. Charles arrived on Thursday after a 4-day state visit to the US, where he helped put relations back between the countries back onto a firmer footing. And a humpback whale that's been stranded in a shallow bay off Germany's Baltic coast for the past 6 weeks has been released into the wild. The animal, nicknamed Timmy, was observed blowing through its blowhole and swimming freely in what rescuers say was the right direction. The 10-metre-long calf was taken to the North Sea on a water-filled barge earlier this week before swimming out to sea this morning. Now, the rescue attempt was funded by 2 multimillionaires, although marine experts say it was inadvisable as the whale appeared to be severely compromised and therefore unlikely to survive. And you're up to date with the headlines. Now back to the Saturday 5.
Tune in to GB News Radio wherever you are. Online, on DAB Digital Radio, on TuneIn, on Radio Player, on Nation Player and on your smart speaker. Just say, play GB News.
Thank you, Aaron. It's Saturday night and you're with the Saturday 5. I'm Will Kingston and I can promise you're in for a very lively hour. Ding, ding, ding. Let's crack on with tonight's main event. And I'll take you into the behind the scenes here, ladies and gentlemen. We did actually struggle to work out who would be debating this topic because I think we do have mixed feelings about this. We are all in favour of free speech, but at the same time, there are complicating factors here. So the Metropolitan Police is reviewing whether to ban upcoming pro-Palestine marches following an awful stabbing attack in Golders Green, and of course strength and love to the victims and their families. Counter-terrorism Anti-Semitism chief Lawrence Taylor said all major events are under assessment as the national threat level rises to severe. Meanwhile, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood says discussions are ongoing as police weigh security risks ahead of planned demonstrations later this month. Seconds out, it is round one, and I will take it away against Connie. And Connie, I will say, when I was young and idealistic and fresh-faced like you, I may very well have been arguing in your position. But I'm now older and more cynical and grumpier, and I can say that enough is enough. I had that feeling after the terrible events in Manchester, and it was confirmed in Golders Green throughout this week. We can talk in theory about the wonders of free speech. We can talk about how important classical liberalism is in a Western liberal democracy. But quite frankly, I think that takes a back seat when Jewish people are being hunted down in the streets. And it is happening again and again and again. And these hate marches are an integral part in driving those events, or at least that cannot be ruled out. We don't have, number one, absolute free speech in this country. Whenever these sorts of marches are planned, there is always a risk assessment that goes on with the police in which they have to make a judgment on whether or not the public good for actually having that conversation out in the open or demonstration out in the open is outweighed by the risk to it. Quite obviously, with the threat that Jews are under in London and across the United Kingdom now, that risk assessment is quite clearly in the intolerable level. But the other thing is, not only do these marches actually not achieve any sort of policy outcomes or noticeable change, they're just for lefty lunatics to virtue signal, and therefore some of the more unpleasant parts of the community to intimidate and to basically send a very clear message to Jewish people that they are not welcome in British society. And it's now high time where we have to take a stand and say, you know what, enough is enough. It's high time we end these ridiculous and dangerous hate marches every single weekend.
Well, I hope that by now no one doubts my extreme anger and concern about this issue. I think that I'm just as angry. I can't imagine being more angry about this issue, actually, and I don't know often where to channel my anger about how awful this situation has spiralled out of control. But my position on not wanting to ban the marches is not from a place of lack of concern. It's quite the opposite. I think that by banning the marches, it will actually make it much harder to identify, monitor, and maybe even arrest people who are a threat to Jews. Now, we have these marches every weekend, and at those marches there have been, frankly, support for terrorist groups. It's a minority, but it's still significant, and we already have laws that make it illegal to support prescribed terrorist groups. Those people should be arrested. Now, if we ban the marches, it will push this issue into the shadows, and Islamism is already a very shadowy issue. That's why it's quite hard to control. And so by allowing the marches to continue, if the police do their job properly, they should be arresting people who support, or even implicitly, I think, support groups like Hamas or Hezbollah or even the Taliban. We saw a Taliban flag at the Al-Quds March a few weeks ago. We already have those laws in place. And one of the issues we have, which I've mentioned quite a few times now on GB News, is the differences in the way that Westerners and people from different parts of, basically from the Muslim world understand certain phrases. Now, I think there is certainly an argument that the phrase "globalise the Intifada" in particular would fail the Brandenburg test in America, where in order for something to be inciting violence, something has to be intended and likely to cause imminent lawless action. Now, we have seen, like you say, Will, Jews continually and consistently being attacked physically, being killed, having their ambulances firebombed, their synagogues, their schools, the way that schools have to have security outside. I think that phrase, globalise the Intifada, whilst it's said by people who say, be the woke lefties who just think it means globalising protests in favour of the Palestinian cause, we know that radical Muslims know very well what that phrase means, and it does mean to kill Jews. I think that we need to crack down on that. But if we ban the marches, it will be a lot lot harder to crack down on it, because these people will still want to globalise the Intifada, but they'll be doing it quietly in their own home and planning them anyway.
I'll open it up to the panel, because there are a lot of things you've just said there that I have some sympathy for. Renee, where do you stand on this?
I think there's something being missed here. And I think if you go to what I said earlier about how anti-Semitism has become the acceptable racism, if you then also combine that not everybody on that march is anti-Semitic, which I think we all agreed, I think it's down to the British people now to stand up and say, no, I won't be associated with your anti-Semitism. So they should look very, very carefully at all of those people on that march who have got hang gliders on their backs and supporting Hamas and anyone else that's been prescribed and we know are terrorists, and say, as much as I am horrified by what's going on and want to be on this march, I'm not going to. And if enough of those people actually voted with their conscience and said, I am really not a racist, I won't walk alongside you, the marches wouldn't happen.
No, that doesn't change the fact that even if you took out all of those people, there would still be a core of people who are anti-Semitic who would be marching and intimidating Jewish people.
Then we would see them. And I'm alongside Connie on this, you see. I just think, I've always said about racism, you know, you don't want to drive it underground. You want to see them. You want to see people so that you can change their views. You can alter their racism.
Christo?
I think free speech comes with a responsibility, and it comes within the realms of the law. And the problem that we have is, I think a lot of people see a double standard here, because if there were, you know, the police and the authorities are quick to ban far-right marches ahead of them happening, just based on what they think might happen during them. Now, far-right marches are horrible. Far-right people are horrible, but they will be very quick to act on things like that. They were very quick to act, weren't they, when it came to actually banning Israeli football fans, when it came to the football game. So the game. So the police can be proactive when it comes to these things, whereas these have been allowed to drag on for an awfully long time with language in them that is considered to be hateful and a language that crosses the line. And that, I think, is the problem. It's the double standard.
Yeah, so what do you make of that double standard that potentially the police are targeting one particular group and potentially letting other cultural groups off the hook?
I don't know that that's necessarily happening, but what really opened Pandora's box was when we all accepted that social media was a way that we could run our lives, because you can ban these marches if you want, but those fringe beliefs are going to organise online in a way that they couldn't before. They know each other out there, and they can continue to plot, they can continue to egg each other on, and so I don't think banning these marches will really make much of a difference. The anti-Semites will still be there, and they will still do their awful things.
Do you think that there's been too many? Do you think that everybody should have the right to protest against something? I mean, I went on COVID marches, which many people thought was abhorrent.
Yeah.
But do you think that there's just been too many? To have them almost every weekend or every other weekend for the last 3 years, and every time you have one of those marches, people's racism gets validated.
I don't think you can put a limit on the number of marches that people have for two reasons. One is that where do you set the limit? Any number would be arbitrary. And the other is that people who are appalled, as I am, by what happened in Gaza would say that we should be out on the streets every day. Now, look, there are some things I will agree with these protesters on, there are some things I won't, but I will defend their right to protest whether we see eye to eye or not.
Yeah, well, it's certainly a vexed issue which is not going away, sadly. Nonetheless, still to come tonight.
How come women don't take DNA tests like the dads have to do?
I just don't understand why they're always in cars. It's so weird. But before we get to our triggered tantrums, next, Keir Starmer has restored powers to dozens of hereditary peers, granting them life peerages after recent House of Lords reforms. We'll be discussing that after the break.
Bold. They are under no illusion. Ray, are you a human trafficker? Boundless. I've had enough of the nonsense, and I'm not afraid to say it. Don't get this on the BBC. Every weeknight, I tear through the headlines. The smell of gasoline. Should we be worried about it? From Westminster madness to cultural war chaos. What I'm going to do now is they are throwing things out the car as we speak. Get ready, Britain. Here we go. Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From court mornings
to warm family brunches,
from football to tennis, in the car,
in the kitchen.
GB News Breakfast is there with the stories you need and the conversations that matter.
Anyway, let's talk business.
Well, it has been a historic night in British politics.
It's astonishing, isn't it?
We're here again.
To start your day just right. GB News Breakfast.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Five. Please get in contact with us at gbnews.com/your say. And of course, remember to get your questions in for Ask the Five. Just put Ask the Five before each question and we will respond to them in the third hour, the Saturday Five Extra. Thank you very much for all of your messages so far. Now, it was the last hurrah this week for 88 hereditary peers as the Labor government prorogued Parliament. It marks the end of nearly 1,000 years of history. It follows Labor's law last month, which removed hereditary peers, I should say, from the laws, which was a manifesto pledge. However, there has been a slight U-turn from the government, who will nominate 15 Conservative peers, 2 Labor and 9 crossbench to the red benches. To discuss this, I am pleased to welcome Conservative peer and pollster Lord Robert Hayward. Lord Hayward, thank you very much for taking the time this evening. So a slight U-turn from Keir Starmer, which is of course in keeping with the man's style, but in my personal view, it doesn't go nearly enough for what is an attack on one of the great institutions of this country. What do you make of it?
I think it's a sensible move. And we've known about it for quite a while, although we still don't know some of the details. We don't know who is actually in the Conservative group or the crossbench group officially. We know 1 or 2 just by word of mouth and conversation. But the government have done it, A, because there are a lot of hereditary peers who actually serve very effectively in the Lords. They'll be made life peers. But also, of course, it then will give Keir Starmer the opportunity at the next point when he chooses to appoint a new group of Labour peers to say, well, of course, I did a U-turn, which wasn't quite a U-turn, on the question of hereditaries. So I'm now going to have a lot more other appointments on the Labour benches.
I think that point that you made around the diligence of hereditary peers that they bring to their work almost across the board is very important, because the argument you so often hear as well that there should be a meritocracy in Parliament. Many would argue that that is not actually how it works in reality. It's more, a jobs for the boys scenario, and we have seen many unsavoury characters, unfortunately, who have been given peerages. How do you feel about what this Labor government have done, and do you think it would be sensible for the Conservatives or Reform or Restore to include in their manifesto reinstalling hereditary peers?
As far as I'm concerned, there are many things that need to be changed about the House of Lords. There's far too many of us, not just, not just hereditary peers, and I would not bring them back. I'd allow certain peers who make major contributions to us to remain, which is what the idea of the proposal is. But no, don't bring them back. It's a sensible decision, but there are other changes to reduce the numbers. We have 26 bishops in the House of Lords. Now, the society's changing enormously. There is no logic which says we should have 26 bishops automatically in the House of Lords. We are reviewing the question of age limits and contribution levels, etc. That's going to be a very difficult decision. But let's get down to 600 peers, about that number, below the number of MPs, and keep the experts. And I would stop prime ministers from making appointments which have not been approved by the appointments committee, because it's too much in some cases of, as you use the expression, jobs for the boys. It's the mates, and several of them have gone wrong recently and should have been subjected to much more scrutiny beforehand.
I want to bring in my panel, Lord Hayward. Connie.
Lord Hayward, I understand that you think that some of these measures are a good thing, but do you think that in general there are lots of misconceptions about what the House of Lords does? Because especially after assisted dying collapsed, there are many people who are in favour of it who were absolutely up in arms about the fact that it was the Lords who stopped it. What would you say to those people who would rather see the House of Lords abolished entirely?
By the way, can I say to the whole panel, please call me Robert. But in answer to the broad question, the House of Lords is grotesquely misunderstood. The House of Commons, when I served there as an MP, went through bills in enormous detail. In effect, that role has been passed to the House of Lords, and we do the detailed consideration of legislation, and we are a house of experts, and that is why why we serve an important purpose in terms of going through that detail of the legislation so that there aren't just unfortunate consequences. So I would keep the House of Lords as a House of Experts, allow the House of Commons to represent the democratically elected position. But yes, you're utterly right. There's so many misconceptions about who are in the House of Lords, how you get there. It should be much more transparent, but much more sensibly controlled.
Christo.
Well, on that subject of the perceptions of the House of Lords and how it's controlled, I think there is that perception, isn't it, that it's a jolly old boys club, or that it's completely inaccessible. Would it be practical, and is there a way in which perhaps people who may not be academic experts but experts in their field, I'm thinking, I don't know, a nurse that's been on the front line for a few decades of her career, a police officer that's served on the front line, those people who have been on the ground, would there be a mechanism, and would it be practical to have more of those sorts of people in the Lords?
I'm strongly in favour of those, but the irony is you've just taken certain examples, and we already have a professor of nursing in the House of Lords. On the crossbenches, Mary Watkins. We have former chief constables in the Lords. If you choose any subject, we have ballet dancers, we have former spies. We could feel a team of people who know more about sport than the House of Commons ever could.
Why isn't that out there enough then? Because I don't think that perception is remotely out there.
It isn't, and the reason it isn't out there is because you start with A, there are too many of us, B, there are too old, and C, we are actually appointed in some completely secretive manner where we finish up with some very dubious characters or people who are not qualified to be in the House of Lords. We have a House of Lords Appointments Commission. I would make them more powerful, give them legislative power, and take away the power of a Prime Minister to appoint a series of their mates, which I'm afraid has happened on a number of occasions.
No.
Yeah, Robert, I was just thinking as you were saying that in the last tranche of Prime Minister appointed Lords, I think that shines through. I looked at that group of people, I know who many of them are, and they've just been in the right place, the right time to boost the numbers for the current government, and that has to be wrong, doesn't it?
It does. And interestingly enough, although it's fair to say that the balance in terms of sexuality, ethnicity, etc., was met, the last group of members of the House of Lords from the Labour Party came overwhelmingly from inside the North and South Circular. I sat there as there was Lords of Greenwich, of Lewisham, of Hackney, etc., all being introduced. And Keir Starmer totally failed, almost without exception, to appoint people from the regions. Even somebody who was nominally Scottish had resided for years in central London. So there are all sorts of imbalances, and it comes back to the question that was put to me just now: why aren't the expertises understood and recognised? It's because there are too many other erroneous problems which we have to deal with, so that then we can stand up and say, we're proud of what we've got here in the House of Lords. We do a very effective job because we have the expertise that the nation wants to listen to.
Well said. Robert, we really appreciate you taking the time this evening. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
Seb, I'll go to you. On hereditary peers specifically, I can understand the arguments that it is antiquated to have people, by virtue of their bloodline, reviewing policy in 2026. I get that. But it just feels to me, I actually think, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, and I think that this has worked for 1,000 years. But more importantly, even than that, is it feels like a Labor government that is intent on chipping away at the culture, the heritage and the history of this country, whether you look at a tax on farmers or a tax on the Great British Pub or any number of different private schools which are closing never to reopen. It just feels like this government is making a very deliberate attack on this country's history and its values.
I don't think that's true at all. I'm a great defender of this country's history and values, and if I felt that were true, I certainly wouldn't be a member of the Labour Party. We can go through each of those in turn. You've got private schools that are opening. You've got many people within the party who think that this is really, really important. On the issue of the Lords specifically, I think you hit on it perfectly. You should not be afforded a seat in the legislature purely because of who you were born to. It's just not the way we should do things in this country. We've had kings and queens for a long time. Long may they continue to reign, but let's stop that kind of behaviour at the top level.
And yet we have politicians who are purely appointed because they went to Oxford and did PPE, many of them. But the thing about the hereditary peers, do you know that a hereditary peer, it doesn't just pass down through a family, it doesn't work like that. Do you know how it works?
You sit in a by-election.
Yeah, so there's actually probably 6, 7, 8 people applying for every hereditary peer place. They have hustings, they have to put forward what they're going to bring to the House, what their expertise is.
But who can apply? It's a very, very limited group, isn't it? You can't deny that.
And it's a limited group, number of them in there.
Do you really think it's a good idea to have hereditary peers?
I think it's fine. I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah, Chris, I'll give you the final word.
I mean, I don't love it, but I think I've changed my views on the House of Lords over the last few years because I think it's probably the least worst upper house that we could have. And I think that if it was more formally elected, and I think this actually about the monarchy as well, that you just end up with people lying to you to tell you what you want to hear in order to get elected and then let you down woefully. And at least those people who are in there at the moment, or some of them, don't do that because they don't need to.
I think that is a good argument. I come from a country where the Senate is not a house of review. It's a collection of misfits and oddballs who basically just push their own vested interests as opposed to actually doing what they should be doing, which is reviewing the lower house legislation.
I mean, they don't have to, when they get it, because they don't have to be elected for it, they don't have to lie to you to get it.
Yeah, that's right.
I think I do agree on the bishops. I think 26 bishops.
I think that's fair. Still to come tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
And before that, it was teaching. It's very tough.
Oh, for sure. You can't tell me what he wants or what he wants to eat.
But next, it is time for Bunch of Five. That's coming to you after the break on the People's Channel, GBNews.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Across western parts of Europe and the southeast, some unsettled weather this weekend. In between for Italy, mostly fine with some sunshine, but an area of low pressure will bring strong winds through the Greek islands, heavy showers and some longer spells of wet weather for Turkey, as well as below average temperatures. And here is some more rain extending across much of France into Spain as well as Portugal. Some lively thunderstorms for France in particular, and that really continues through the start of next week.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A band of heavy thundery rain will push up from the south this evening, but gradually turning brighter tomorrow once any rain clears, though it is going to be feeling much cooler as we head into next week. Now, it's this system across the south this evening that we do need to keep an eye on, eventually pushing some heavy thundery bands of rain northwards across the country. This could lead to some difficult driving conditions, so do take care if you're out and about this evening. Eventually turning a little bit drier across parts of the south to the north of any rain, often quite cloudy with some showers at times. Now, temperatures will fall to around freezing across the very far north of Scotland, but actually for most with the cloud and also the rain, it's going to be a fairly mild night to come. Now, quite a soggy start to Sunday for many areas. Across Scotland, largely dry, though plenty of cloud around. This could be thick enough to produce some light outbreaks of drizzle, but it's really across southern Scotland, northern parts of England, Northern Ireland as well, where we could see some rain and also some showers. Once again, we could see some fairly heavy downpours at times. Elsewhere across England and Wales, mostly dry, though some showers just starting to clip the far southwest of England, and this is pretty much the story through most of the morning. Now, eventually rain will clear into the North Sea, so turning a little bit drier, but still plenty of cloud around, still some showers at times. The best of the brightness likely across the very far north of Scotland. And overall for all, it is going to be a slightly cooler day, though highs will still reach around 19 degrees across the south, though many northern areas between 10 to 13 degrees. So it is going to be feeling a little cooler compared to what we see this afternoon. But on Monday, still a cooler, fresher feel in the air, but actually there's going to be plenty of dry weather around. Still some showers across the south, eventually some showers moving into the far north of Scotland, though for many areas it should be dry, perhaps even some bright sunny spells later into the afternoon. Quite cloudy into next week, some showers at times, and temperatures overall feeling a lot cooler.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I've been in Westminster for a long time, but I know that though power may be here, its effect on people's lives is across the whole of the country. We may be where rules are made, but it's where they're implemented that matters. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for forthright and frank discussion on where Britain has come from, where it's going, and where it will end up. That's State of the Nation, Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Vox Populi, Vox Dei.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5 live on the People's Channel, GB News. Before we move on to our bunch of five, some breaking news from our home and security editor, Mark White. More than 300 small boat migrants have launched from 100 miles off the French and Belgian coastline today in an effort to avoid police beach patrols, I should say. GB News counted around 315 illegal migrants as they were brought to the Border Force Processing Centre at Dover Harbour across the day. It follows 55 migrants who arrived on Friday and takes the total number of illegal arrivals for the year to almost 6,800. All of whom need accommodation, all of whom are in various ways supported by the British taxpayer.
Some of whom may be rapists.
That's right. Seb, we don't have a great deal of time, but in the interest of balance, I want to go to you. Something I've said consistently on this show is that these numbers are going to endure whilst the legal framework that enables people to come and stay in this country remains in place. And Shabana Mahmood is doing a lot of tinkering, but she's not addressing that legal framework.
What would that look like to you?
ECHR, Human Rights Act, Refugee Convention.
What about them specifically?
I would get rid of all of them.
You would get rid of them all?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The Human Rights Act is a disgrace for a variety of reasons, and not just that.
Right.
The Refugee Convention was written after World War II in a completely different context and wasn't set up for this type of scenario.
Mm-hmm.
And the European Convention on Human Rights was based upon the English common law and all of the rights which this country came up with. You're not going to lose rights if you get out of it, but you certainly are hamstringing yourself by keeping us in it.
So what would you replace it with? You'd need some kind of human rights legislation, I presume.
It is all covered in the English common law.
It's very difficult to enforce.
But in any case, that is not the point I want to make here. Okay. I want to talk about. I want your very quick thought on why the boats are continuing to come and whether this Labor government really has any appetite to stop them.
They're continuing to come because people are hoping to seek asylum here. Now, some of them will get that and they will be folded into our communities, and I hope that there will be a net asset. Some of those won't get that because they won't meet the threshold. The very difficult thing is, what do we do with those people? And that's the answer that we don't have yet.
Connie, your thoughts on this?
Well, the reason why they're still coming is because they know, like you said, when they get here, Will, that they will be housed. I mean, when migrants in Calais are interviewed, even in the BBC, they talk about the fact they know that they will be housed in Britain. And you say they're wanting to claim asylum here. They're not fleeing a war in France. And at some point, and Renee, it sounds harsh on the face of it, but frankly, we have no idea who these men are. We have seen an absolute flurry of sexual assaults on girls and women in this country, and we cannot be surprised that when the vast majority of these men, I think it's Afghans and Eritreans, are the top two biggest categories. These are countries where women are treated not very well at all, awfully, and there is, my biggest concern is the sexual tourism that is going on in this country.
Well, answer me this. If 40 million people a year came to this country and you didn't know anything about them, would you be comfortable with that?
No.
Well, the reality is they do, and we call them tourists. So are we going to ban all tourism?
But we're not housing them at the taxpayer. And
we're bringing them in. No, on your sexual harassment point, we're bringing them in. We don't know anything about them.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to allow you. I am not going to allow you to get... I'm sorry, Connie. Tourists come for 2 weeks, spend some time here, see the Tower of London and perhaps Buckingham Palace.
We know nothing about them.
And then they go home, just as when we go to their countries. These are men who come from countries who have a very dim view, in lots of cases, of women.
And many tourists come from those countries as well.
No, they don't.
No, they don't. I'm talking about countries such as in particular Afghanistan.
Okay, fair enough.
And I know that every time this figure has come up, you say it's not true. According to the Oxford University Migration Observatory, they, a conservative estimate, think that Afghan nationals are 14.5 more times likely to commit sexual assaults than British people.
Does that take into account age?
Oh my God! No, because
are younger. People who tend to commit crimes are younger.
That's okay,
so you are being disingenuous by peddling facts like that.
Okay, please let me just make this point. Last week, GBNews covered the story of an Afghan illegal migrant who worked for the Taliban. He came to this country. He has been sent for only 2.5 years to prison for kidnapping and sexually assaulting a 7-year-old girl. And do you know what he told the court? Do you know what he told the court?
Tell me what he told the court.
He said, "I like children and I kissed her on the face out of my love for children. Back home, everyone does this." He told the court that.
Right.
And until we have a serious conversation about the fact that our cultures are so vastly different that we cannot take the risk. We cannot. Do you think that he was being...
I refuse to believe that we Brits are the pure and untouchable nation and everybody else is an animal. It's just not a narrative I want to start.
Why would you bring in... Why would you... That doesn't matter, because you're bringing in a problem that didn't exist before.
Yes.
And also, I have to call you up.
A problem that didn't exist before.
We have enough. Yes, exactly. We have our own monsters. We don't need to bring in more.
Exactly the point, and you know exactly what I mean.
We have our own monsters.
No, obviously not. That's why we don't want more.
Why are you apologising for them by saying...
You're not apologising for them.
You're saying, it's fine. We've got our own monsters. We don't need more.
I'm sorry, you are being an apologist for them. It's you.
That is a disgusting thing to say, Renee. You know that's not true. You know that's not true. Don't put me in that position.
That little girl would not have been raped.
And I said repeatedly that was reprehensible, and I believe that to my core. So do not say that I support that behaviour.
Let me finish. We have paedophiles and rapists in this country, of course we do. They should all be put in prison, and they don't go to prison enough. I speak about this all the time. Why do we need to import more?
Answer me this. How do you know when you bring someone to this country? I'm answering your question. How do you know when someone comes into this country that they may in the future go on to commit a rape?
Because the available data we have is they are far much more.
I've asked you a question, please answer it.
You have answered every question with a question, so let me say this to you. In this country, men are the biggest threat to women.
Correct.
Not most of them.
Correct.
Just a small amount. But in order to stop women being at risk from that small amount, because we don't know who they are, we keep them out of our spaces. That's what we do. It's a blanket rule. If these Afghans are going to come here, or whoever else, and rape our children, let's just keep them out.
And the other thing that I would say on this point, and it goes to the whole all cultures are equal argument that we hear from so many. If you look at Somalia, for example, my understanding is that 99% of women between the ages of 18 and 40 in Somalia have experienced female genital mutilation. No one can tell me that culture should be equal to our culture. We do have a better culture than most other countries in the world. That is something which we should defend.
People want to come here.
And that is
the reason why people want to come here.
That's a really crucial point, because quite often when people leave a country, if it has a culture, as you say, that they don't like, the reason they're leaving is because they want to come here and be part of our culture.
That doesn't immediately mean that, firstly, they assimilate with all our values immediately. Some do, without a doubt, but that does not mean that. But secondly, to your point, and I've got to pull you up on this because I think it flew by, this idea that tourism is in any way an equivalence to people who come on small boats. When you are a tourist, you go through a border, you have a passport check. Eritrea...
Nobody asks you if you're a rapist or not.
But you still know who the person is.
The point I'm trying to make is we say, oh, I don't want these people to come in, they might become rapists. We don't know. Exactly. And you have the same for tourists. You don't know if a tourist is going to come here and rape somebody.
If someone has a conviction in their home country or something on their record, you are more likely to know that if they have had to apply for a visa to this country or if they have had to go through a passport control to this country.
Is future rapists, and they are as hard to spot among the tourist population as they are among the asylum
And I
population.
answered that question.
But nobody is making the case for stopping tourism.
I have answered that question.
Go on, what did you say?
I've answered you. So firstly, we do know who tourists are. They don't throw away their passports in the channel.
No,
This is important. Stop interrupting. Stop interrupting.
You're not answering my question.
No, I am answering your question.
Go on, try me.
You're absolutely right. We do not know who the future rapists are. But we don't know which men are either. We just keep them away.
So why don't we shut down tourism?
I will wrap it there because I think we've covered a lot of ground and it was getting spicy, but perhaps a bit too spicy, and I want to get too triggered.
I'm about to have one. I'm about to have a triggered tantrum. I'm going to have one now.
Of the show. That's all coming up after the break.
Do you trust what you're being told? Good, because neither do I.
Those are just facts.
I'm Alex Armstrong, and on my show, we'll expose the spin.
Well, I want to answer that, because you didn't let me last time, because you always speak over me.
The broken promises.
To deny that is denying the truth.
And the hypocrisy.
We can allow. You think we can allow?
Politics, policy, parliament. Nothing is off limits. No sugarcoating, no fear of offence, just the truth laid bare. Tune in every Saturday and Sunday at 9 p.m. for Alex Armstrong Tonight, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Thousands of them go to a dance class every week. Now, campaigners say that dance helps to strengthen their core, their balance and their coordination, and prevent tremors, improve their gait, and most importantly, while the music is playing, it gives them back control of their bodies. And according to Charlotte Russell, who is the CEO of Parkinson's UK, dance is a miracle.
I slur my speech a bit. I'm very self-conscious about it, but I used to hide Parkinson's, and now I celebrate it.
You're doing brilliantly, I have to say. Colin?
Yeah, I was diagnosed in 2017, and I get a hand tremor, so I sit on my hands sometimes and have body stiffness, anxiety and so on. But dance is brilliant.
Yeah.
Dance really, really helps.
It's brilliant. OK, so both of you. I mean, there are all sorts of pharmaceuticals that you can take, obviously, and medical things that you can do for the condition. What made you, Colin, you have no background in dance?
No, no.
What made you go to a dance class?
Well, a friend of mine who I used to box with who had Parkinson's recommended the English National Ballet Social Engagement Programme, and it's really good. So from that, I was recommended, and I went along, and I was a little bit sceptical. I've never danced before in a formal sense. But then I met these guys and I fell in love with dance. And it's absolutely superb. It helps fight my motor and non-motor symptoms.
Does. Yeah. Ian, what was
Social
yours?
anxiety.
You had a background in dance.
I did, yes. I used to work for the Royal Opera House, so it was not too big a step for me. I loved the family of being in a dance company. But for me, you asked about medicine. Dance is my medicine, it really is. I feel joy is my medicine, actually. And you don't feel joy very often. When you have Parkinson's, you feel depressed and anxious a lot because you don't have dopamine in your system.
GB News, the People's Channel.
As soon as it hits 11 and the headlines come in, Late Edition brings you the breaking news from all the front pages.
Because the news is going to happen.
So get a head start today.
Patrick Christie's tonight, Late Edition.
Alex Armstrong tonight, Late Edition. From 11 o'clock every night.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5, ladies and gentlemen, and I can promise you that things got even spicier during the break, which of course is not Ofcom regulated, and it really showed. Coming up from 8 p.m, it is Ask the Five. Send in your questions, gbnews.com/your say. But now it is time for our favourite part of the show, Triggered Tantrums. And I am going to kick us off. And this is, I guess, a tantrum of sorts. This is Jake Paul, boxer, social media influencer, and he had a woke lefty reporter who asked him, why does he not have cheerleaders who are male or ring people who are male as opposed to just pretty girls? This was his response.
The projection of women in boxing and the issue or the theme about the ring girls in an all-female fighting card. And the
ring boys?
Sexualization of women.
You want ring boys?
Well, a couple of people have said that why don't have boys or none of any of them at all. I just wanna bring to the attention the conversation of it.
He would go on to say, ask Kamala Harris if you really want an answer to that question. Isn't it just invigorating to see woke culture just be decimated in such an open way, in a way which we wouldn't have seen maybe 5 years ago, Renee?
Look, do you know, this whole thing about these ring girls and the Formula One girls that they got rid of a few years ago is these are women who are choosing to do that as a job. And on the one hand, the woke lot are saying, you know, female power, you can be whatever you want and you can take whatever job you want. Oh, but not if it shows your body and we think you might be sexualised because we need to look after you. So actually, we're going to tell you what's best for you.
Exactly. You know the solution. It's Formula One boys.
Seb, am I being unfair to ring boys? Do they, do we demand justice for them?
Why not have a ring boy? Look, it makes me think a lot of Page 3, and we were right to get rid of that, I think. But the difference there was that you're going to open a newspaper, you're going to see it. A child might open that newspaper. You're not having children go off to watch boxing or darts or wherever else you might have this kind of activity. So I tend to be a little bit more relaxed about it when it's in these enclosed spaces.
Renee, let's go on to your triggered tantrum. What have you got for us?
OK, so you know that the average IQ around the world is 100. So you know that some people are going to be much, much lower than that. I know I'm a doctor, so maybe I understand this a little bit better, but just enjoy this, guys.
How come women don't take DNA tests like the dads have to do? How come after they give birth, they don't have to take the DNA test? I mean, they are literally inside of a hospital. They have all the equipment. You know, this woman tried to get me to take a DNA test once to see if I'm the father of her child. Like, I never even touched the child.
I'm assuming that the woman that asked him to take the DNA test was desperately hoping that he was not the father of her child.
Yeah, from the look of that as well, it looked like that woman might have been a close relative.
Yeah, this is the problem with social media, isn't it? It gives everyone a platform, no matter how dim or weird that you are, in their car. Yeah, which is, again, a really weird little part of triggered tantrums that I'm yet to fully comprehend. Christo, what have you got for us?
OK, well, just picture it. You know, it's the Oval Office of the most important man in the world, of course, President Donald Trump. He's delivering a speech. And, well, there's a 2-year-old called Travis. And, well, I think it's fair to say he probably didn't enjoy the speech that much.
And before that, it was teaching. It's very tough.
Oh, for sure. He can't tell me what he wants or what he wants to eat or what he needs. And now he'll be able to do that.
Wow.
It's life-changing.
That's a great job they've done. I want to thank Regeneron and other companies for doing their part to bring down the cost of health care for all Americans under our Most Favored Nations agreement.
Now that's what happens if you take my makeup bag away from me. So I just want you to know I would end up in the corner.
You know what this puts me in mind of? I once took Callum, who was the naughtiest child on the planet, everybody, to an interview for a very posh North London private school, and he leapt over the sofa in the middle of the interview. Didn't get that place.
Yeah.
Christo, can I penny for your thoughts? How did you assess the royal trip to America?
I think it demonstrates precisely why the royal family exist, and what it actually did was have our king and our queen repair the relationship that was ruined by our prime minister being completely foolish, very cavalier with the special relationship, and potentially putting our security at risk by alienating our biggest ally.
Seb, do you agree with that?
No, not at all. If you think there is a special relationship to start with, then I've got news for you. It's more of an abusive relationship. But look, I do think the King's visit was very successful. I think he's a fantastic asset to us. But isn't it brilliant when we can wheel someone out who is nominally non-political? I think that goes a long way, especially with President Trump.
Connie, there were still a few little annoying political bits in that speech. The diversity is our greatest strength thing, some talk around the environment, which can be construed as political. How did you assess it?
Now, obviously, those things, it's King Charles, it's going to happen. But I think, like you've all said, the fact that King Charles has delivered beyond all expectations, and I was hopeful when, you know, it was the lead up to it, is this going to repair the special relationship, whether you think there's one or not, whatever relationship we have with Trump, I think that he has done our country a great service, and I think that his mother would be very proud.
It's an interesting relationship as well, isn't it, Renee? It's like, you know, you could make a very good buddy, you know, oddball buddy comedy, you know, the King and Donald.
They could have a podcast.
Jeez, I'd listen to
the
that.
King and I.
What did you make of the trip, though?
I thought it was a great success, actually. I think I was quite proud of Charles. I think he came into his own, and I think it's something to be proud of. And there's very little as Brits that we're proud of at the moment, so go for it, Charles.
Yeah, I agree.
King Charles, please. Thank you.
No, I am on first name terms with him.
Oh, OK. Yeah, I like the full title being used. Thank you.
Chuck. We will cover more of that in the Saturday 5 Extra, ladies and gentlemen. I know two high fives have call-outs from both the King's speech as well as the speech from President Donald Trump. I'm going to very quickly throw to Christo whilst I get my earphone back in. Christo.
Yes, we've got loads coming up, by the way, as well. We've got all your questions,
haven't we?
Can I just
say that I met the squirrel lady in Golders Hill Park this week. Hello, and she fancies Will.
Well, to the squirrel lady, I'm available. Don't go anywhere. It's the Saturday 5 Extra coming up after the break.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello there, good evening. Welcome to your GB News weather update from the Met Office. A band of heavy thundery rain will push up from the south this evening, but gradually turning brighter tomorrow once any rain clears, though it is going to be feeling much cooler as we head into next week. Now, it's this system across the south this evening that we do need to keep an eye on, eventually pushing some heavy thundery bands of rain northwards across the country. This could lead to some difficult driving conditions, so do take care if you're out and about this evening. Eventually turning a little bit drier across parts of the south to the north of any rain, often quite cloudy with some showers at times. Now, temperatures will fall to around freezing across the very far north of Scotland, but actually for most with the cloud and also the rain, it's going to be a fairly mild night to come. Now, quite a soggy start to Sunday for many areas. Across Scotland, largely dry, though plenty of cloud around. This could be thick enough to produce some light outbreaks of drizzle, but it's really across southern Scotland, northern parts of England, Northern Ireland as well, where we could see some rain and also some showers. Once again, we could see some fairly heavy downpours at times.